Hello, my name is Brandon Devnich. I'm the primary developer here at Pegasaas.com. And this is a recap of this week's update and what we've put into it. All right, our focus this week was in three parts. First, cache management, then data management, and then usability. So for cache management, we added support for the Pagely caching, server-side caching plugin for those that use the Pagely hosting service. We also now detect and warn if the system can detect that mod Pagespeed is installed on the server. Mod Pagespeed is an Apache module that used to do great things if you had root access and knew how to manage the system, but it's not very user-friendly. Some web hosting providers allow you to just enable it, but there isn't much of a interface to go and manage it or clear the cache or make any changes to it if something isn't working properly. With it installed, there's a conflict with what Pegasaas already does, so we warn that you should have that disabled. We've also resolved an issue with how some of the folder structure in the cache system was being created. It wasn't affecting anything except that it was just leaving some junk folders in the WP content folder. So we've just resolved that now. And also there's now a fantastic new feature. This was a suggestion by one of our clients, and that is to allow auto clear of cache. Now, why would you want to auto clear your cache? Well, say you have pages that are maybe dynamically updated on a regular basis, such as with a content plugin that generates content into your pages. Or you typically go and update your menus on a regular basis, but sometimes forget to clear the cache. There's any number of reasons. If it works for you, this feature is now available. You can have it set to clear weekly or monthly. If you feel that maybe there's a different time frame that should be added to this list, send us a message and we'll consider adding that to that feature. So as far as data or memory management is concerned, we had a comment through the WordPress plugin review system that observed that there was a lot of so-called garbage data that was added to the WP options database table when the plugin was installed. When we first built Pegasaas, we figured that the target for who would be using our plugin was sites about 100 pages. We now know that there are a great percentage of websites that have more than 500 pages, and then there are those that are mega sites that are in the thousands or tens of thousands of web pages. Now, our data handling system would create a variable for every page for the settings. You can imagine that every page that is enabled for acceleration has to have a setting, and obviously there are individual settings for each of those pages where you maybe want to turn a feature on or off explicitly. So you need to keep track of all of that data. And if you have thousands of pages or tens of thousands of pages, those are thousands or tens of thousands of records that are added to the WP options table, which adds bloat, and it can make at that scale the loading of the WordPress system slower. All of our benchmarks and all of our testing were done up to about 2,000 or 3,000 pages, but when you start to get very, very, very large mega sites, it can add some bloat. And we also, for keeping track of the cache state for the pages, also had a variable state, and so that added another set of variables to that table. So it was observed by this one user, and we had actually already been in the process of migrating a lot of our data to custom tables and pulling it out of the WP options table. For that very reason, we noticed that you can get tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of records in that table. And so starting back in December, we started migrating the Pagespeed scan data, moving that out of that table and putting it into our own proprietary Pegasaas tables. as well as there were a couple other bits and pieces that we had moved over there. Oh, API requests, I think, was the other major one. And so what we did this week is we completed that process of moving the data that would be stored for individual pages. So if you had 1,000 pages, there would be like 2,000 records. We've now moved that out of the WP options table into our own proprietary table, hopefully speeding up the loading of the WordPress interface on those very, 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 very large sites. As I said, when we did our benchmark testing, initially, we didn't notice any slowdown because we were testing on sites with maybe 100 pages or 500 pages or even 1,000 pages, and those records load very, very fast. And then on to usability. This is where we spent a lot of work this week. So I'm just going to run through this. There is a new tab in the interface, which was actually this interface here. Let's see if I can pull that up. Just down at the bottom of the interface are a set of tabs. There's a new tab there called Tools. Now this tab, again, is a suggestion from, actually the tab isn't, but the functionality is. A suggestion from somebody using our product where they wanted the ability to, after they did the initialization of, say they were doing testing and then they only initialized 5 pages. How could they go about saying, I want all the rest of them done? Well, up until this point, you would go to the Pages option on the left-hand side of WordPress, the panel, and then you can bulk select through the checkboxes on the left-hand side of the interface that comes up which pages you want accelerated, and then from the bulk tools select box, which is at the top of the screen, select accelerate and then hit accelerate. But there is a maximum number that the system can do at one time through that method, simply due to the limitations of WordPress and the length of the query string. So what we did is we added a Tools tab just about there that allows you to accelerate or enable all for any page or post or any custom post type. So it's broken down into basically post type. Or you can disable them. Say you said, oh, you know what, I really don't want to be using my optimization credits for such and such custom post type. You can disable them all. Okay, so you can do that there, and it takes basically 2 seconds for it to go through the system and enable the acceleration or disable the acceleration for any of the custom post types. There is another tab just beside that we added called changelog. So if you want to be up to date with what happened in the most recent update or in the past 5 updates, there's now a changelog list there. Everything it can expand open. You can read the details. You can watch this video if you like as a recap, just to be on top of what has been produced in the last couple versions, if you're interested in that sort of level of detail. We added page level configuration to the custom post types. So page level configuration, when you go to edit a post or a page, you know, you've got your rich text editor in the middle, and then on the right hand side you have a button that says update or publish. There's also a section for the Pegasaas Accelerator where you can enable the acceleration or disable it and configure the different page level settings that you can do for Pegasaas right there. This feature was available for posts and pages. It's now available for any custom post type that you also have. We added a new welcome tour to when you first load up the interface for the very first time, or if you've never watched the welcome tour before, it's now there. So what will happen is you load up the interface for the very first time and it'll come up with a welcome box with an option to watch the welcome tour. It's basically me walking through all of the important features and buttons that you can click and where you can go to do different things. It's just so you can understand the interface a little bit. You can close out and skip it if you wish, and it won't show up again, but it's there just to give you sort of a crash course, so to speak. And the last thing that we added was the ability for the developer edition of the plugin. That's for the developer and the developer level of subscription. For those, it will now support ecom, so that if you are requesting a page that is non-cacheable, say something that is there's a query string afterwards in the URL, or it detects that you have added something to your cart through a cookie that is used for, say, WooCommerce or WP e-commerce, it will still optimize the page on the fly using some pretty cool tricks. So in any case, that's what we've been working on here this week. It's quite an update. It took me 10 minutes to run through this video of all the features that we did, but we've been pretty busy this week. So anyways, thanks so much for watching. I hope you find that helpful, and we'll talk to you again next week. Bye-bye.